When you wanna break the norm, man, here fresh and new. Turn it up loud, cause we play you. Bass move the ground like Cali shake. Don't turn it past 7, it's for sure gon' quake. Buy your life brand new. Buy your life brand new. Twitch.tv/. Buy your life brand new and this it or dash. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up, turn it up. Buy your life brand new. Turn it up.
Welcome to Sweet Fingers, where the flavors of Jamaica come alive. Our talented chefs blend authentic Jamaican ingredients with a touch of love and passion. From tender oxtail stew to flavorful coconut shrimp to our snapper fish, we serve up the best of Jamaican cuisine. Whether you're looking for a taste of Jamaica or an unforgettable dining experience, Sweet Fingers is the place to be. Feel the rhythm, taste the spice, and immerse yourself in the vibrant Jamaican nightlife at our restaurant, where every night becomes a celebration of island flavors and unforgettable experiences. Come and experience the soulful flavors of Jamaica today. Nobody does it like Sweet Fingers, baby.
Break dip, corner sharp like razor. Ghost rider whip, neighbors yelling y'all crazy. E40 slang, vocabulary gravy. Hustle so strong, lead a whole block hazy. Curbside chatter, deals under street lights. Hustle on the corner like a fiend chasing green stripes. Knock steady, hitting speakers bark like a pit. Street level impact, the ground might split. Street level impact, with a baseline crack. From the trunk to the block, no way to turn back. Hands in the air, we gon' make this clap. Street level impact, yeah we built for that. Street level impact, with a baseline crack. From the trunk to the block, no way to turn back. Hands in the air, we gon' make this clap. Street level impact, yeah we built for that.
What it do? What's up with it? Happy New Year, everybody. 2026, we here. I go by the name of the Tycoon. Igor Beats on the ones and twos, and you know, we back, you know. That's all I'm saying. I'm back on Bay Life Radio, you know. So this is the return of the Tycoon. New year, new movement, new show. You know what I'm saying? So this is what it is. Street Level Impact Podcast. It's going to be airing every Thursday from 1 to 3. Make sure that y'all tune in. Make sure y'all like and share and subscribe to the channel. Tell a friend. And we going to get it in. That's all I got to say. You know, this is the first of many, so, you know, it's only right that we kick it off. It ain't no other way to start the year, so we going to start it off right. So, yeah, you know, first I want to tell y'all a little bit about the podcast. And basically, you know, what our purpose is. And it's kind of self-explanatory in the name, you know. For those that know, of course, you know, we definitely, you know, here at Bay Life Radio, we're really big on community. You know, we participate in a lot of different projects and activities that's going on throughout the Bay Area in Northern California. And, you know, this is a way of life for us, you know what I'm saying? So basically that's what this is about. We repping for our section, but definitely in a whole different way, you know what I mean? So it's, you know, we're going to talk about a little bit of everything on here, you know, but this is more about us. That's really all I could say. So, you know, we definitely gonna be discussing topics that are going on in our community. You know, feel free to offer up your opinions, you know, and definitely offer up some solutions. You know what I mean? That's all I gotta say about that. And yeah, you know, hopefully y'all enjoy this ride with us. You know, so with that being said, I guess let's kick it off, man. Igor, what's happening?
What he do? What he do? What's happening with him, man?
Nothing
Hey,
much.
we back on this thing, huh?
Yeah, you know, so I was just wondering, I mean, I kind of already know, but yeah, I mean, how do you feel about the New Year's so far? Well, how was your New Year's?
It was cool. It was cool. You know, we had another New Year's party that turned out great. Everybody came through. It was safe. You know, everybody made it home safe. Wasn't no problems. You feel me? That's the biggest thing.
Right.
Yeah. It came in productive. You know, I came in working. They say you stay in how you come in, so
Right.
I came in working.
Right.
Yeah, it was cool. How was yours?
I mean, it was chill, man. Like you said, the weather kind of,
Yeah.
you know, had me, especially because even when looking at the weather, it was like, okay, we had, you know, a period where it was all sunshine, but then it was like, yeah, right on New Year's, and then even right now outside, I know people
Soggy.
like, why he's sitting there with his hood on, but yeah, it's definitely raining outside.
It's raining in Cali.
Yeah, you know. So, but surprisingly, from what I saw, I mean, it didn't really damper mine. I'll be honest with you. I was knocked out early. You know, I'm getting old.
Right.
So yeah. By the time I ate and you know, a shot or two, I didn't even make it for the ball to drop.
Wow.
Yeah.
And you know, you the second person that told me that.
Yeah, I mean, what the weather, like you said, the weather make a difference because,
Make you hibernate.
yeah, it wasn't just rain, it was cold. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So that's what I was about to say earlier is like the, you know, climate change and all of that stuff they talking about is definitely real. We've been feeling the effects. So, you know, it's been, you know, 40 degrees.
Right.
On a regular out here for the last few weeks. That's not normal. So, you know, when you talking, you know, closer to snow temperatures in addition with the rain, and that's crazy. And so, yeah, I was out for a little bit yesterday, but even just going to the store running errands, you know, my car got the good heater. So, yeah.
Make you want to not get out.
Exactly. So it's like a combination of being in the car, being, you know, super warm, 80, 90 degrees, then getting out, it's cold and raining, then getting in the house and the heater back on. You know,
Right.
yeah, you're going to go to sleep fast. But it was cool. You know, like I said, other than that, you know, kind of the rain had me looking at it a certain way at first, but yeah, I don't have no complaints. I noticed, though, there was a lot of stuff going on out here. They shut the freeway down, the bridge. Excuse
What?
me, not the
Again,
freeway.
last
yeah.
night?
Yeah, people.
Oh, wow.
I seen clips on the internet, and I'm just, you know, I don't really want to start it off like that, but I guess we're gonna start it off like that. That's a question that we gotta ask y'all out there in the world, and definitely that I want to ask you, Igor. How you feel about that? They was literally the videos that I seen. People were out of their cars, stopped their cars on the bridge to watch the fireworks.
Wow.
Literally.
You know, it's crazy because on one hand, I understand the energy, I understand the excitement, but at the same time, we gotta have consideration. You know, it was probably a few people back there that was getting to work or just got off work, trying to get home, didn't want to be involved in all that, and now you got them stuck on the bridge, hundreds of feet up in the air, you know what I mean, above the water.
Above the water.
Yeah, to watch the fireworks. Nah, yeah. Let me get home. Let me get off the bridge. And y'all stop playing on the bridge like that.
Thank you.
That's how I feel about it. Maybe it's my age. I'm getting old too. But y'all stop playing on the bridge like that. Y'all too high in the air to be with the foolishness, you know?
That's what I was gonna say. That was kind of my opinion on it, because when you think about it, I mean, I agree with you. I understand it, but to an extent I don't, because that reminds me of a time where mentally I wasn't necessarily making all the right
smart decisions, right?
You know what I mean? And so to me, all of it, I mean, yeah, I ain't gonna say I never thought about it or it'd be fun to be a part of, but if it had to be done the right way. So like all the side shows on the freeway, just the freeways, period, let alone the bridge. But you know what I mean?
Right.
Shutting down the freeway, shutting down the bridge, and actually getting out of your cars and stuff. Now,
and keep in mind, you hundreds of feet up in the air.
Right, and that's the other thing
Above
too.
the water.
I'm not the best swimmer.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm not the best swimmer. But I'm not necessarily afraid of heights, but there's a certain level, like you saying too, where you up in the air.
When you hit the water, is you gonna be able to swim?
Right, because you can, you can injure yourself depending on how high up you are. But yeah, I was thinking about that because we done had a couple incidents in the past year. Even it was one that's a few months ago where a teenager fell off the freeway right by the Carquinez Bridge going to Vallejo, and it was a sideshow. And and what he did was he actually he hopped off. So like you were saying, it was right around the area where you high up in the air. You know what I mean? Where the bridge is actually leaving from the land. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the freeway split at the same time. And what he did was, and I guess some other people did it too, but he tried to jump from one side of the freeway
to the other,
over to the other, and didn't make it.
Stop playing.
And didn't make it. And did not make it.
And
I'm very serious. It was
fell and plummeted down.
Yes.
Oh wow.
Yes.
See,
I have to look up the article, but I want to say that was like 2-3 months. It was like right around Halloween, I think.
Wow. See, they they don't even have the right idea of the sideshow. They taking it in the totally wrong direction. We had a sideshow, but I can't remember us having it on the freeway when we was young.
Right.
That's just what we didn't do.
Well, and then too, like you said, it's a different generation, and it's the concept of it is different. Like for example, we still call them sideshows. In LA, they call them takeovers. You know what I mean? Where they basically just take over the street. So it's a combination of, Fast and the Furious, or you know what I mean? Where they just want to literally just take over the street. And I think that that's what gave them the idea. I know other places they do it too, even with the bikes and stuff. But like you're saying, just to take over the freeway, to take over the bridge.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, in other cities, I can understand it, especially if it, and I guess I'll say that too, like, a smaller bridge maybe. Like, we do got the Alameda bridges, for example, and that still don't make it okay. But again, if you guys are just trying to temporary, I mean, well, it's not really wide enough either. I don't think if you want to like do donuts or nothing on those bridges.
But the whole thing of holding up traffic with you got working mothers and fathers traveling to and fro. You don't know who's in that traffic that's really on a schedule, that really have something important to do to get there.
Even emergency vehicles.
Yeah, even emergency vehicles, right. And you got the whole freeway blocked off. It negates the fun. It don't make no sense. To me, it makes the fun ignorant. I understand the thrill, but I just don't understand the sense in it.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was pretty wild though. And then at the same time, it's like, why they not able to get that under control?
Right.
Especially it's like y'all want to spending all this money. That's another thing that we finna jump right into, since we already talking about freeways and bridges. But you know, y'all charging all this money out here. It's
Say that.
yeah, it's a lot of changes going on in regards to the road and infrastructure. And I'm not necessarily mad at it because, you know, like I was telling people in different conversation, it's about time. You know, they've talked about it in politics and different things, whereas like, you know, our infrastructure is in is bad shape is not the word, but you know, like the freeways, you got, I mean, same thing. We talking about these bridges, but they had I believe the San Rafael Richmond Bridge. They recently, you know, had to shut some of it down to do some work on it. You had pieces of the bridge actually just falling off. You know, that's how old, or, you know, not necessarily how old it is, but how long it has been since it's even been, you know, upgraded or had any work done on it. And so it's like, yeah, with these infrastructures, we definitely, I mean, we're not going to sit here and talk about what you guys did with the money necessarily when you should have been putting into that. But now, right, now that they want to.
Well, we should be talking about it.
Well, I mean, we have before. It's about who paying attention and who not.
Our roads is terrible out here.
Right, and we know a lot of that money was going to other stuff over the years and during previous presidential campaigns. But, yeah, it's like you said, from potholes on the freeways to, like we saying, bridges needing repairs. It's a lot that needs to be done. You know, widening of the roads, adding extra lanes, and y'all constantly, you know, with the fast track being implemented on all the freeways now, you know, there's really no such thing as a carpool lane anymore. You know, you got to basically to use that lane or even to go a certain distance. You know, some places you getting charged extra $4-5 per quarter mile, you know. So it's like, if we're going to do all of that, then I think that they should be taking, you know, as far as highway patrol and stuff, they need to be doing a little better job. Because if we're paying all this money, like you said, and then I'm just trying to get back and forth from work, but the freeway could get shut down, then what am I paying for? You know, what am I paying all these extra fees and stuff for? And the roads is trash.
And you have a lot less people working. You got at least about 60 to 100 toll takers that you don't have to pay no more.
Right.
And you raise the price. Where is all this money going?
Right.
You know, it's $10 across the bridge now.
Well, yeah, depending on the bridge. That's what I was gonna say too. Yeah, they, as y'all know, today is the first, and so with today being the first, the bridge tolls have went up on some of the different bridges here in the Bay Area. I know the Carquinez Bridge going to Vallejo, it went up by 50 cents. So yeah, at first it was $8, now it's $8.50, and then the following year after, yeah, Jesus, that's right, because it don't make no sense when y'all think about it. Especially, I mean, I cross bridges twice a day. You know, and sometimes more depending on what kind of traveling I got to do. And when you think about that, you done spent, you know, if you, depending on how many bridges you crossing, even if you 4 bridge tolls a day, that's still, you know, $24. You know what I mean? And depending on the car, that's a quarter to half tank of gas. And then, you know, like you said, it's a monopoly too, because where's the money going? Because if you don't pay those bridge tolls, you don't pay those fast track invoices, they go up. And they keep going up. You know what I mean? Like, I think I'll be honest with you. I saw one, I think it got up to like 100 and something. You know, all from $8. So you guys definitely got to pay attention. You know, plan it if you're going somewhere. But I don't know how to feel about that. Compared to, on one side, I understand, you know, costs, but like you were saying, it doesn't make sense. Like out here, there's no We don't have no bridge toll workers, so there's no employees that they're paying. You know, I know other places like on the East Coast, for example, their bridge tolls, I believe some of them are already like at $15. So we ain't even seen nothing yet. Yeah, like on, I think New York, New Jersey, some of those areas, they bridge toll is already, it's been double digits. So, you know, we kind of got off easy. But again, if we're having to pay these amounts, why are the roads in the condition that they in? You know, because I don't understand that at all. I'm paying way too much, like you said, and to the point where you can't even pay for the repairs that the roads is causing. But you steady paying for for the roads still. So I don't get it. But hopefully we start seeing some other changes. I know that they just stopped. It was the pass for the electric. Was it the electric vehicles, or was the air? I forgot. Because they had a pass, kind of like the fast track.
Yeah, no, they just revoked the pass.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what I'm saying. So they done took that out. So, you know.
That was the incentive to buy an electric vehicle.
Right.
Yeah.
And now that program is no longer going on. So it's like, it's still traffic. You know, just typical not even typical Bay Area. It got worse, in my opinion. There's way more cars on the street. You got more people that's not from here that's commuting.
Right.
But yeah, if like those people, like you said, that program was stopped and it's all about fast track, like what are we, you know, what does that guarantee us? Like, since we have to, you know, and we don't have to pay it. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to start a revolt or a riot, but, you know, if we were to say, hey, why are we paying this amount? And everybody refused to pay, there's not too much that they can do about it. You know, they can't just take all the cars off of the road. You know, they can't even stop people from shutting down the freeway or the bridge, you know. But yeah, it's like, how does that change things? I mean, what is your thoughts on that as far as even, you know, like I said, transportation, like being charged to actually be on the freeway is no longer free. It ain't just crossing the bridge.
The payway. Huh?
Yeah.
For real. And that's crazy because, you know, having a driving job, you think about it, you know, they charging $45 to drive from Oakland to Fremont if you want to use the fast track lane. And that's just the whole way there, you know, 15. And that's crazy for our roads to be this tore up. You would think that, you know, with the all the money they saving by not paying all the toll workers. And I remember when that used to be a good job.
Yeah.
Like
I knew somebody that worked there too.
Yeah, if you had a toll taker's job, you had a good life. You know, you had a nice car, you had a nice house, you was balling. You know? And now it's like all that money y'all saving, the roads is worse. The roads so crazy in Oakland that they have become a viral meme. That's crazy. My friend has a viral meme about the potholes in Oakland. And it's really catching traction. Like, that's something to have. Yeah. Shouts out to KP. Illusions.
Yeah, and then a lot of people are saying too, you know, because I blew a tire out. This is probably about a month ago.
Oh, the pothole?
I believe it was. I'm not sure, but I think so. It was right here, actually, on the 580 on the freeway. And but you know, people was in the comments like, yeah, you know, you can contact them and they'll reimburse for it and this and that. And you know, I know people that have done that.
Yeah, I've heard
for the
that.
street, but the freeway, you know, I wasn't necessarily sure how that works. But again, I I would think it'd be easier for them to just fix it, you know.
Right.
But
they got the money.
Yeah, they got to do something about that though, because like you're saying, even for people that's driving jobs, like, you know, whether you delivering or You know, even as far as like Uber or Lyft, different stuff is like, okay, well, who's responsible?
Right.
You know, for this wear and tear on the vehicle.
And you know, it's some places in Oakland. If you drive dodging the potholes, it look like you drunk driving.
Yeah.
Or playing some kind of video game.
Yeah. But if you don't, your tires.
Right.
Like
Suspension.
I said, I blew the tire out. I ended up having to go to, I was able to get it replaced at the tire shop that was closest to me. But honestly, I had to go with a tire that was slightly off. You see what I'm saying? And then the rest of the places, it was like when I did go to try to replace tires, I actually, with the car that I was in, I guess, you know, the tire size was, you know, a pretty popular tire size. So it's like, of course, you know, I tried to go budget friendly at first, and a lot of the places, they was out of the used tires. But then for the, you know, the new tires, they wanted almost double. So I had to go to three places just to get tires. And then I ended up, a tire blew out again. So then I had to do it all over again, you know. And that's a lot of money, like you said, to, you know, let alone anything else. Because I think one time I ended up, I don't know if my oil pan got cracked or something, but I kind of believe it had to do with that too, because, you know, on the roads is potholes, as far as on the streets, when I mean the roads, is potholes, but then, you know, we also got these quote-unquote speed bumps that they have in the street, and I'm skeptical of those too, because depending on where you at and how they get put in, it seemed to me like they those don't get put in properly, you know. I could say, for example, on the street that my mom lives on, right, they got a speed bump there, but at the top of it, it's cracked. I mean, and when I say cracked, like, you know, like say you take cornbread out of the oven. So you know how you take cornbread out of the oven and how the top of it, you know,
It's
where
cracked like it busts open.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm seeing speed bumps that are like that right here in Oakland, and it's like, you know, there's been times too where even just going over that, you know, especially, again, depending on the kind of car you're driving. If you're driving a car that's a little lower to the ground, going over that.
Oh, yeah, you going to scrape.
You get what I'm saying? So it's like, you know, all of it, I think, needs to be done over, you know?
Yeah. The whole idea of the speed bump thing needs to be looked at because, like you were saying, some of the streets got speed bumps so big, oh, man, you'll tear your whole bottom side of your car up. And then in some streets, you got the little speed bump there like it's not even there.
Right.
So,
and I noticed that, like Hayward, other places. But
yeah. They got the little bitty ones.
Yeah, where the police can just go right over, or they got breaks in between where, you know, you can drive literally right over it with no problem.
Yeah.
But like you said, then you get over here, they all uneven and stuff. We gotta do better out here, y'all, and that goes for all cities here in the Bay Area, because, you know, what y'all doing? Y'all charging us too much for the stuff not to be right. That's all I can say about that, you know. Other places, the streets is kept up a little bit more. Y'all just now started really making a difference with the homeless situation. Now, I don't know where y'all sent them to. You know what I mean? But there's certain places, certain main streets where I see they cleared a lot of that up. But, you know, like I said, yeah, infrastructure is very important. I mean, if we, like you said, if the cars can't work, or if we're not able to get down the road on the freeway or across the bridge to get to work, then there won't be no work. I mean, a lot of people still work remote, but, you know, on a day-to-day of function, you know, to do certain things, getting kids to school, even going grocery shopping, you know, you shouldn't have to worry about, you know, a messed up road and being charged to go, like I said, every few miles. You're already paying for the car, paying for the registration, paying for the insurance, paying for the gas. You know, then you have to make these other 3 and 4 payments. that's a lot of pain. So I don't know, man. But it's a lot of other stuff that's going on today, too, with it being the first. I don't really think that it's going to necessarily offset some of these costs and stuff that we are talking about. I guess it's supposed to be a step in the right direction, though. With that, I'm talking about the minimum wage increase that just happened. So again, it's the first. A lot of new things are in place. For the bridge tolls, the minimum wage has went up in California, along with a few other states. Minimum wage has went up this year as of January in California, Arizona, Washington, New Jersey, New York, Michigan, Missouri, Minnesota, Montana, Nebraska, Hawaii, Colorado, Connecticut, South Dakota, Virginia, Vermont. I think that's about it. I don't know what necessarily, of course, the prices range, so I'm only kind of concerned with California, but ours went up to $16.90, which is a 40-cent increase from last year. Now, federal minimum wage is still like $7 something, right? Like $7, $8. I remember it was under $8. So, but of course, the states have their own individual minimum wage laws, as well as counties. So, with that being said, it's say minimum wage, but that's just general for the state. But if you look a little further in depth, it's more depending on where you're at. I think in the city, minimum wage just went in San Francisco. It just went up to $19.18. So that's above the California average now with $16.90. But again, San Francisco, for example, hey, it's expensive. It's expensive. It's about time. Also for healthcare workers in California, I believe the minimum wage is now going to be starting at $24, $25 an hour. And for fast food workers, it's now $20 an hour. Now, I'm not mad. Ultimately, I know people like, oh, we're fast food or they don't deserve it, but everybody deserves. The cost of living out here, number one, is why it's necessary. Number two, hey, these are, we remember from the pandemic that these are essential jobs. These are jobs that keep the economy going. So yeah, the people that are in the service fields, they're the ones that's actually, keeping the city moving, keeping the country moving on a day-to-day, because if they're not there to do those jobs, then it's not going to be, so I don't see a problem necessarily with that. And again, too, it's still not enough, to be honest with you, because until they kind of, level out some of the other, economic issues in regards to, housing costs, things like that. I know, like they said, we're coming out of, quote unquote financial crisis. We still, the country is in debt, and different things. But again, it doesn't seem like that when we see money getting sent to other countries, So I think that they either, if they don't want to have to keep increasing wages, I think they're going to have to lower costs on certain stuff. But as of right now, to me, it seems like a good thing. I'm pretty sure those who receive the increases, they need it. And you know what I mean? We all need it, to be honest with you. Like I said, the way prices is going up on food and, just everything you think of, medical insurance, all kind of stuff. So yeah, that's some of the stuff that has been changing in regards to uh, wage increases, minimum wage, and like I said, if you guys want to look, because I don't want to just throw the numbers out there without double checking, because I don't have it in front of me right now. But I know certain areas like the Mountain View, different areas where I can't remember if that's San Mateo County or Santa Clara. I want to say it's San Mateo County still. But like I said, certain counties and cities, their minimum wage is a whole different price. It's a whole different wage than other places. So you might want to just double check to see, so you know ahead of time. Or hey, and I'm not saying you get minimum wage, but I'm just saying you might notice an increase. You should notice an increase in your check. You know what I'm saying? If you get somewhere around that, or base pay at a job. So, keep your eye out for that. But yeah, I believe I have to double check as far as who's the highest minimum wage of this year. I know the highest minimum wage of last year was Washington D.C., which was $17.95 an hour. So, yeah, like you said, hey, to me, fast food I thought was a minimum wage, so a minimum wage job. So fast food is, if it's at 20, then we already, in the runnings. It's a good look. But yeah, I wanted to talk about some of the other laws that changed too. Let's see, we got right here in Oakland starting. When is the 4th? That's this Sunday, right? Yeah, today's the 1st. It's Thursday. Yeah, so Sunday. So starting Sunday, January 4th, in Oakland, and y'all might want to pay attention to this, especially because I know we got some events that's going to be coming up downtown, Black History Month and other stuff like that. But starting this Sunday, parking is no longer free downtown Oakland on Sundays. So, I don't necessarily know what that's about, but again, that kind of ties into what we were saying about the roads and infrastructure. For the longest I can remember, not just out here in the Bay, but anywhere, typically on a Sunday, those are the days that you don't have to pay for metered parking, things like that. Typically, though, Sunday is a day where a lot of businesses are closed. A lot of places are closed. Whether it's for religious reasons. I know originally that's how it was starting, where it was Sunday is supposed to be the day of rest. So a lot of businesses, just period, whether it's stores and other businesses, they tend to not be open on Sundays. Let me see, pawn shops, hair salons, to my knowledge, there's some that, they don't open on Sundays. Then there are other ones that do, they choose different off days. But typically in a downtown area in any city, I can't necessarily think of it being that many stores open to where the traffic or, even parking is that oversaturated to where you guys, first of all, like I said, charging money. You're just trying to get what you can. But, again, it's not, in some places, it's not a lot of traffic on Sundays in downtown areas to necessarily be charging all of that for people to park. But I guess that's what they're deciding to do now out here in Oakland. I know, too, they're trying to revamp downtown Oakland, as far as bringing in different restaurants, different stores and businesses. And again, I'm all for that. I don't necessarily see how charging for parking though is gonna help them. If anything, I think it's gonna make people not necessarily want to go shopping on Sunday. Because I know me, certain places, like for example in the city, I typically, if I can avoid it, I won't drive down to the city because it's hardly ever any parking, and you got to worry about tickets. So I try to avoid that, or I take public transportation down there. The city is a little different from Oakland, though. With that being said, it's way more congested downtown. They got the autonomous vehicles riding around. They, bus lanes in the middle of the street. Same thing that they're doing here in Oakland, but it's to the point out there in the city where it's literally parts that no cars are allowed there anymore. So you can't even drive anymore. So that makes it even harder because you guys is like, you're sizing down on being able to accommodate everybody in that regard as far as, people driving their own vehicles. And again, like we said, just the cost of everything, the cost of parking in private parking garages and different things like that is ridiculous. And it doesn't keep your car safe, so it's like we're being overcharged on this end for this, or then we got to worry about a ticket for that. And I just don't think it's right. But what do you think? I mean, you think it's going to affect shopping or people, going downtown with having to pay for?
Oh, definitely, it's going to impact shopping. We'll see that first. I don't think it'll impact it a lot, but it'll definitely impact it. Because at the end of the day, people still gonna go down there and park.
Right. But why Sunday though?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Why Sunday? I mean,
never in the history of traffic have we ever had to park and pay on Sunday.
Right.
And it circles back to the first question. You making all this extra money on the roads and highways and traffic, but the roads and highways are well below satisfactory.
Right.
Where's all this money going?
And well, we're gonna ask that all day because we see where just like it's been some other stuff that had happened in the news recently where funds, whether it was for schools and other stuff, different programs, funds that were allocated to certain things have just went missing. I know there was one where somebody is I gotta double check to see what it was, but they had it was a nice amount of money too. But I think it had to do with the school district. It had to do with the school district, and it was like
they having a situation right now in Minnesota, where all the federal funds going to Minnesota have been frozen because Minnesota has been caught stealing billions of dollars.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Yeah, like how do you explain that? Now, how do you explain that? And then if y'all know who got the money, you can't go get it back. Like that's crazy. All of it ain't gone that quick. Not like you said, billions of dollars. They don't just disappear. You know what I mean? But and then too, like you said, just from a city standpoint, like I know that recently, like we missed out on opportunities for funding for different programs like regarding homelessness or housing and other stuff, all because, the people that work downtown didn't necessarily go through the procedures in time. They didn't apply or they didn't fulfill certain requirements to receive the funds. So it's a combination of both because it's like you said, how are you late to handling business like that on one side, or then on the other side, stealing the money.
Right.
So, yeah, we definitely need to keep our eyes open on that and what's going on. I don't want to get political right now, but I just I just put it like that. Keep your eye on them, you know, because I be seeing certain stuff, and you know, in my opinion, I mean, everybody's scamming, you know, one way or another. So I just be trying to pay attention to what's
All
being
the politicians scamming, I believe.
Yeah.
All of them.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, because the whole thing is, how are they shutting down the government and still getting paid? How is things in the government not working and they still getting paid? You know?
Yeah. That's, like you said, that's a whole nother conversation in itself. But we've been asking that for a minute now, and they don't look like they plan on answering. Trump doing what he want. And it seems like everybody else is too at this point. You know, I guess that's the new politics nowadays. But yeah, let me speak on some of these so we can move on, I guess. About laws that are in effect in 2026. One of them is, well, this one doesn't go into effect right now. It goes in effect in July. The No Secret Police Act. I know you heard about that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's they got to take off their mask. You know, so most local, state, and federal law enforcement officers are now required to, you know, they can't wear a mask. So, you know, a lot of people, COVID for one, you know, where people were wearing masks, but it's not COVID no more, and those aren't the type of masks for COVID anyway. You know, a lot of you guys, and I mean, of course, it was happening on the street too. You know, the baklavas or the other type of masks that typically are used for skiing or being in certain weather conditions, you know, or, for example, being used by the military, because that's what they be using them for too, you know, keep sand out of their face, different stuff when they're overseas. But, or like I said, being in extremely cold temperatures, you know, that's what those are for. I don't understand what the police need to cover their face for. So to me, I mean, I thought it was kind of a no-brainer. I don't see what the pushback is, because again, if you're a law enforcement officer, how are you faring for your safety?
Right.
You know, in that regard, because if you're not doing nothing wrong, you ain't got nothing to worry about. I mean, you know, I've never, like you said, this is the first that I've really heard of that, whereas officers is like, hey, they need to keep protect their identity or whatever. I don't think that that's right, because that's not what they signed up for. They swore an oath, like you said, and took a job, and the job is for them to actually be a peace officer. And I think that the wording is kind of funny, because, like you said, that's what they're originally supposed to be, are peace officers, you know, instead of the whole law enforcement, you know what I mean? Because it's like they try to lean on the enforcement part a lot, you know, and I think that a lot of them you know, they abuse their authority in some instances, you know, or overstep. And I think that that's just a version of it, because like I said, you're not a SWAT team. I guess, you know, this ain't a video game. So the same way, like, you know, we be trying to tell these youngsters out here in the streets, you know, y'all got to take the mask off, you know, you this and that. You know, typically when you see somebody with a mask on, they up to no good. And we also know that with quote-unquote law enforcement, you know, there's history of them, you know, treating people wrong, you know what I'm saying, actually hurting people, or some of them being caught up in criminal activities themselves, or like I said, you know, abuse of power, excessive force. So no, you shouldn't be allowed to cover up your face, you know, because at that point it could be covering up a crime. You know? What if somebody can't see your badge number? Or what if your badge number is covered up? And they know what we're talking about, because there's been plenty of instances where officers have got caught doing that, turning their body cams off, covering up their badge number, So yeah, you covering up your badge number in your face, you might as well be a criminal. How I know that you even a real police? You know. But yeah, so the no secret police act, um, that doesn't go in effect till actually July. But other laws that go into effect right now are as follows: traffic laws. There's a couple of stuff that's changed in regards to that. One of them is Assembly Bill 544, and Assembly Bill 544 states that electric bicycles, must have a red reflectors on or flashing red lights with a built-in reflector on the rear of the bikes at all time when the bikes are in use, not just at night. I agree with that. I think that they should have taken a lot of this into consideration when they were making these laws, creating bike lanes, especially when they knew that they were going to be implementing electric bikes, because electric bikes are motorized. You know what I mean? So it's just like a motorcycle or a scooter, a moped, anything, any of it that's motorized. When you think about it, it's like, okay, you know, anything can happen. And they're actually on the road moving with vehicles, which I guess is kind of the whole idea of building them like that in the first place. But there's pros and cons to that, just like we see on the road with people with motorcycles. You know, ever since they switched that law a few years back where motorcycles could actually go in between lanes on the freeway,
They can legally lane split?
yeah,
What?
yeah, that was a few years ago when they reinstated
Wow.
that. And so is like that causes problems. I've seen a lot of close accidents because, you know, they zooming through even when it's traffic time. You know, you don't necessarily see them out of your side mirror. You know, depending on how fast they moving up, and if it's traffic time, and or say for example rain or anything like that, but you're trying to switch a lane, you know, and last minute, you know, they just zoom up out of nowhere. There's really nothing you can do. And
Right.
so it's like, to me, I think that that's caused more accidents. And the same thing with electric bikes, you know. So I think that it's a no-brainer. They should definitely have lights on them. They definitely need to stay in their designated lane. And yeah, I mean, shit, everybody else has to abide by these rules. They should too. Another law is Assembly Bill 289, which allows Department of Transportation to establish a work zone speed safety pilot program, and it's going to use fixed or mobile radar systems to detect speed violations. Okay, so they'll be taking pictures of your license plate, and tickets will be issued to the vehicle's registered owner per Assembly Bill 289. I thought that was something that was already going on, you know, at certain freeways. I know that they had spoke about that before with implementing cameras, to record, you know, people speeding. Same thing with on the street, you know, with people running red lights, different things like that. I know they have discussed it before over the years, so I guess now they're probably implementing it all the way across the board. So, you know, that's something to look out for no matter what part of Cali you in. There's another law. I like this one. It's called the Slow Down or Move Over Law. Okay? And so the Slow Down or Move Over Law is expanding to include any highway maintenance vehicle or stop vehicle using its lights or warning devices. This law, they've already had this law in place in Oregon. So, like, if you're on the freeway and if you see, like, hazard lights flashing, especially if it's a work vehicle, like a Caltrans vehicle working on the highway, if it's the police and they have somebody pulled over, ambulance, anything like that. In Oregon, the law is that you have to move completely over into a whole nother lane. Yeah, so it's not to, I mean, it makes sense because you have a lot of accidents that have happened like that because, people don't necessarily pay attention. They're not judging the distance, so it might be somebody pulled over on the shoulder. They might not be all the way over, or they might not necessarily have that much of a shoulder room. And like you said, accidents happen that way too, and especially even with police pulling people over, sometimes depending on where they're pulling you over at, like I said, you might not be working with a bunch of room to begin with. So I think that's cool, as far as for safety. But also I believe in move over anyway, as far as the way some of these people are driving on the road. Like if you don't know how to merge, or if you're not necessarily sure where you're going, that's what the two right lanes are for, the slower lanes. You know what I mean? Not you holding up traffic. You're supposed to go with the flow of traffic, and and you driving slow in the fast lanes. I remember a time where the police will pull people over for that because they say that they're imposing on traffic. You know what I mean? But again, I guess we don't have as much enforcement going on the highways as we should because, y'all got them operating on the street. That's a whole nother topic too. But yeah, slow down and move over. What other laws is going on? Low-cost insulin. Senate Bill 40 will cap insulin copays at $35 for a 30-day supply. So that's another thing that I know has been affecting people as far as the economy is, health care, health insurance, the cost of it, the cost of medicines, appointments, any type of care, and again, I think that that's something that needs to get addressed as well. Other countries, they have cures for certain stuff, different things where it's made ready to the public and is given to them at affordable prices. And this being the United States, we used to brag and boast about being at the front of the line, when it came to a lot of stuff. But now the truth is out is that we're not. And if we are, you guys are choosing instead to, overcharge us for it, which still, again, is not making any sense. And especially if you got the actual employees like the healthcare workers, the medical workers, nurses, doctors, and, EMTs, all of that, where they're not getting paid. They're steadily going on strike or having to ask for wage increases. So it's like, where's that money going? It should be allocated to the right channels to even all of this out. So, yeah, hopefully, because like even me and myself, just a little sidebar, I went to the doctor, and everything was good, but it's something to still think about. I'm at that age, they told me I was kind of at pre-diabetic levels. I'm not heavy on the sugar, so, it's not nothing necessarily for me to worry about, but it makes me think about it and the realization of how close to home stuff like this is about, medical costs, medical care, and even insulin. You know what I'm saying? We getting older, y'all, so things like high blood pressure, things like diabetes, we got to keep all of that in mind. We got to take care of ourselves, watch our diets, but definitely not sit here and let them overcharge us for stuff, because we still got to live. So yeah, and then and then also, my insulin pens, basically, you'll be able to get like 5 3-milliliter pens for like $55. Yeah, so it's stuff that we got to keep in mind, Joe. We got to stay on top of this as far as I know, like I was saying about even just medical expenses, period. My mom had mentioned that to me the other day because she had an appointment, and I guess she ended up not going. And it was like, well, why'd you didn't go? And before I could even really ask why, her whole thing was they wanted, a couple $100 for, I think it was a scan or something, like CT scan or something like that. But it was like, she was like, yeah, it's $500-$600. And and it's like, I don't necessarily want to pay that right now. And hey, you got to, that makes sense. I get it. And like I said, if it's so expensive, then how come everybody ain't got no money? You can't put something at prices that people can't afford because that's not realistic. But, yeah, please pay attention. I mean, like we've talked about before on other shows and, just in life in general. I know y'all done heard all of this before. Like, we got to look out for, ourselves by, saving up money. Really paying attention to what's important. Like I said, things like medical insurance, even if you're working, your medical benefit plans, all of those type of things. Because, it gets to a point where we really got to make some decisions in regards to that. So let's see, other laws. Senate Bill 19 was basically student protections. It's increasing protections for California students by making threats against daycares, universities, schools, workplaces, medical facilities, and places of worship of crime. Okay? I thought that it was already that in certain aspects, but I guess not. I mean, I guess this is specifically saying, it's a crime to attack these places, period. I mean, I know like medical facilities, I thought that there was already laws in place. Just like how, the post office, certain buildings, hey, they're federal buildings or, state buildings, for example, or even county buildings that I thought that there were certain laws put in place, but I guess now they're making it a blanket thing, which, that definitely should be happening. None of those places are put here to hurt people. Those are all places for people to get help, resources, medical care, even church, even places of worship, so I don't necessarily see why people would choose to want to attack those type of facilities. But, so that's the new law, Senate Bill 19, and it amends an already existing law that criminalizes credible threats, and what it's doing basically is just clarifying it that all of that is considered criminal, even if a specific person isn't identified. So, hopefully that'll cut back on some of these school shootings, just mass shootings, different stuff like that, period. Because like I said, especially those places should be off limits anyway, for the people that are trying to, fight for a cause or stand up for a cause, that's one thing. But, it's a lot of innocent people when you start talking about those type of places. Let me see. Other laws. Now, this is wildlife recovery. There's some new bills. One of them is Senate Bill 495, which requires insurers to offer 60% of the personal property policy coverage limit up to $350,000 in the event of a covered total home loss. Okay? So we all know that there was different, natural disasters that have happened. There's fires, stuff like, what happened down Southern California. People are still trying to recover from that. And like we said, dealing with the insurance field, it's a lot of back and forth with money and you know insurance companies saying they don't cover certain things anymore, policies getting switched up, or people even being able to recover from um, those tragedies. They're having issues when they're filing claims. Um, certain, certain situations they're being told that there's not really no funds for that, or that that's not covered in what they've been paying for. Which again, like I said, everybody's scamming. I don't understand it, um, and I don't think it's right. So hopefully, Senate Bill 495 will help with that. Um, there's some other laws, Assembly Bill 628, which is a law guided to protect tenants. It requires landlords to provide a working stove and a refrigerator to a rental property in order for it to be deemed habitable. I thought that was something that was already a law, because I know when you move into a place, if they've already provided the stove and the refrigerator, they charge you for it. So, I guess now it's just making it mandatory that they have to provide those appliances. Assembly Bill 246, it prevents a tenant's eviction if they are unable to pay rent because of delayed or terminated Social Security payments. Now, I think that's a pretty good one. Again, the economy, there's a lot of different stuff going on. When they talk about Social Security payments, we're talking about the elderly. And again, due to things like Igor was saying about the government being shut down, and like that affected a lot of lives. There's a lot of people that weren't getting Social Security on time. There's a lot of people definitely that wasn't getting government assistance on time in regards to EBT, SNAP benefits, WIC, and even money for some folks, general assistance. So I think that that's pretty cool, because again, if me as an individual, if I'm doing everything that I'm supposed to do, and especially like a elderly person, if they're elderly, they got a medical condition, or hey, they're retired, they get, they're supposed to be getting this much income, a month, quote unquote, and it's not released on time due to somebody else's error, then I don't think that a person should be doubly penalized for that, especially in that aspect, because like Social Security, that that's money coming from the government. So it's like, how are you taxing me as an individual for the government, being a little bit behind? So, yeah, that's Assembly Bill 246. Assembly Bill 391 is another bill that seeks to streamline interactions between the landlords and tenants. It'll allow mobile home parks to deliver notices electronically with the residents' consent. AB 414, will allow landlords to return security deposits electronically if the tenant consents. Now again, those are bills that I thought, that stuff I thought already was going on, with the advancement of everything else being electronically. But obviously, hey, we got to hold some of these landlords accountable, right? So, yeah, that's what those bills are there for. Plastic bags banned from grocery stores now. So it is official. There are no more plastic bags, no more, nowhere at grocery stores. And that's because of Senate Bill 1053 and Assembly Bill 2236. It prohibits the use of all plastic grocery bags. So from now on, if you're at the store, you can purchase paper bags, or you have to bring your own. Those reusable bags, they've been selling them for years now. I'm pretty sure y'all got at least one or two from one of your favorite stores. So yeah, or bring your backpack. Whatever you got to do. But I'm pretty sure paper bags, I think, will be getting cut out soon too because, you know, um, I'm trying to think of what's our ecosystem. You know what I'm saying? As far as it's kind of a waste, if you ask me, paper bags. Just as much as plastic. It's chopping down trees unnecessarily. But yeah, so no more bags, y'all. Let me see. Regulations on food delivery services. Assembly Bill 578 aims to protect consumers that use food delivery services like DoorDash. It requires the platforms to provide a detailed, itemized cost breakdown of every component of a transaction, including fees and tips. The bill also requires full refunds on incorrect or undelivered orders. And it ensures that consumers have the option of speaking with an actual customer service rep when they request it instead of having to talk to AI or a chatbot. Now, I've experienced that once or twice. I wasn't too happy about it. I'm not big on apps and especially delivery app services, but I know that they can be frustrating. I used to work at a store where we used to get a lot of that kind of traffic, and, it kind of, to me, it seemed that even the driver was kind of put in a messed up situation because sometimes it'd be an order coming in and we didn't necessarily have it in the store. So then it was like you said, hey, we got to either partially refund them or they have to, explain to the driver. Then the driver has to explain to the customer, that they didn't have it and that there is going to be a refund or whatever. It just seemed real confusing to me and more of a headache. And I would hate to be a driver because it puts you in the line of fire. Now you're customer service. You know what I mean? Especially, and when people are trying to get on the phone, like you said, and calling around, because you're trying to get to the bottom of something is one thing. It's another thing when you're having to deal with a chatbot or AI. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like it when I'm on the phone and it's the digital voice and it's asking you a question. Then it's, oh, I can't hear you. Can you repeat that? Then you got to do it 4 or 5 different times, as if you weren't speaking clearly the first time. But, then for it to still say, oh, that they can't quite get what you're saying and finally transfer you to somebody. It's pretty ridiculous. And like Igor is saying, it's cutting people out of jobs, They're adding folic acid to tortillas. Now, I don't understand why, but maybe somebody, can explain to me how folic acid is supposed to be. I guess they say it's supposed to help children. It promotes new cell growth, I guess, and can reduce birth defects by up to 70%. So Assembly Bill 1053 is requiring all major tortilla manufacturers to add folic acid to corn tortillas and corn masa products. Mom and pop shops will be exempt from the change, which I don't get that. If it's something that should be in there, then put it everywhere. If it's not, then what are we really saying? Easy privacy and data control for social media users. It's Bill 656 also goes into effect. It calls on social media companies to make process for users to delete or cancel their accounts simpler, which definitely needs to happen. Let's see. They got another bills about pets, pet protection, and regulating animal meals. Those are Assembly Bills 506 and 519, which is basically to protect household pets. And then let's see. Then there was the other bill about declawing cats, Assembly Bill 867. So now, unless it's medically needed, you cannot go and request for them to declaw your cat. because they will not do it. Yeah, so that's a couple of them. One of the other big ones that I thought was needed, Assembly Bill 1340. It now allows rideshare workers to unionize. So that means that Uber and Lyft, you know, it's about to be some changes. That's all I can say. And it's, you know, it's well deserved because they go through a lot. You know. But yeah, man, I mean, shit. It's a bunch of more stuff I can't really think off of about, you know, the top of my head right now. And I know I've been running my mouth for a minute, y'all, so you feel me? We going to have to catch up the next time because I'm running a little over. But, yeah, stay tuned. This is what we doing, Street Level Impact, every Thursday. And, you know, we got a couple different things that's going to be coming up for y'all. Some different, you know, guests. We're going to have some special guest speakers, you know, coming to converse. Maybe we can get some people in some of these industries that we was talking about so they can, you know, kind of explain their experience or how some of these laws are going to affect them, you know, or how they're going to affect us. But, yeah, you know, thank y'all for rocking with me. And I don't want to keep holding y'all up. It's still a holiday, quote unquote. You know, get out there, party. Don't party too hard, though. You know what I mean? It is still raining. You got to be careful. I know me, myself, I'm about to head over to the city for First Thursdays. So it's downtown First Thursdays in the city on 2nd Street. And it's going on from 5 to 9. And, yeah, we'll definitely be tuning in next week. If any of you guys got any questions y'all want to ask, you can do so by either contacting, one of us on our social media platforms. You can find me under my name, The Tycoon, you know, Igor Beats. You can always find him. We do have a page up for the podcast. So, you know, it's the SLI Podcast on Instagram. And if you have any other questions, you know, pertaining to business, sponsorship, being a guest on the show, you can either contact us there or you can go to streetlevelimpact@gmail.com. I believe that's what it is. But don't quote me on that. So for right now, hit us up on the social media platforms, like I said, under the Tycoon, DJ Igor Beats, or the SLI Podcast for show on Instagram, and you can tap in. Like I said, follow, like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. We're trying to build this thing up. We doing this for y'all this time, you know, and feel free to comment. Like I said, let me know what kind of stuff y'all want to hear about, or let me know what your opinions are. You know, if you got any stories you want to share on any of the stuff that we talked about, by all means, go ahead, drop it in the comments, you know what I mean, and I'll be able to get back and address it on the next show. But until then, I'm out. This is Bay Life Radio, Street Level Impact, until we get back.